Okay, let's face it, when it comes to starting up a brand new hobby like woodworking, well, we all make mistakes. Granted, some more than others, but it's just a fact of life and it's a vital part of the learning process. Now look, I've been doing this for donkey's years and I still make mistakes. Some major, some minor on virtually every build that I do. But instead of getting all cranky about it, I just like to refer to them as my little bespoke design features. G'day folks, Uncle Knackers here. Now let's kick this video off with what I think are the top 7 woodworking mistakes that beginners make and how to rectify them. Let's go. After I attend to this little issue. It's starting to sting a bit. Apart from driving a nail through your finger, one of the most upsetting mistakes is missing your mark with your hammer, which leaves an unsightly dent in the wood. But don't worry about it, as it happens to the best of us, and in most cases there is an easy fix. Now as you can see, my trusty old hammer has left some nasty dents on this block of wood. Now to repair that, the first thing we need to do is to apply some water to these dents, and that will cause the wood to swell. Just a bit of water over those dents. There we go. Now just let that sit for a little bit. Take that nail out. And then with the wet rag, just place that over those dents, just like that. And then grab your iron, your hot iron. Oh, listen to that. And iron those dents out. And hopefully with a bit of luck, it'll be a success. Okay. Let's have a look. That is fantastic. I'll get a close up. Now check this out folks, all those dents that surrounded that nail hole have now all but disappeared. How cool is that? A lot of beginning woodworkers tend to gravitate toward the jigsaw for all their wood cutting requirements, as I think it's perceived as a safer tool than the screaming circular saw, but they're often disappointed with the end result when trying to cut a straight line, as the jigsaw tends to wobble and deviate. Now to fix that problem, try this. Go out and find yourself a straight edge. It doesn't matter what it is, just as long as it's nice and straight. I'm using a stick of 42 by 19mm pine, and this is going to act as the fence for the base of the jigsaw to run up against. Now the next thing we need to do is to measure back from the inside edge of our jigsaw blade to the outside edge of the jigsaw base. Now we can either do that by using a combination square and just pushing that blade down until it just kisses the inside edge of that jigsaw blade. Lock it off, and that's our measurement. Or you can use the old-fashioned way and just use a tape measure. Now that measurement there, that's going to indicate how far back from our line we need to clamp down our fence. Now just a quick tip, you may have noticed how I've extended that fence beyond the plywood by about 100mm or 4 inches. That's so we can rest the edge of our jigsaw up against it, which means we can enter our cut nice and parallel to the fence. Now if I can just grab my straight edge and we'll do a little test. Now check that out. That is a beautiful straight cut. Alrighty, your wobbly cut days are over. Speaking about mistakes, how's this? I was having a chat to my wife the other day and she was a bit disappointed about something. I said, look, you just got to learn to relax and embrace your mistakes. So she turns around and gives me a hug. Wasn't the answer I was after. Bit shocked to tell you the truth. Now this kind of thing happens all the time when you're not paying enough attention and you accidentally drop or knock the piece of wood that you're working on off the workbench, or somehow you scratch it and you finish up with a superficial or cosmetic mark that you need to fill. To repair those marks and scratches, we do have a couple of options, with the first one being a pre-made filler that is colour matched to the type of wood that you're using. Now I think a better and cheaper solution, cheap's always good, is to actually use the sawdust from the project that we're working on, as that is going to be an exact match for the wood that we're using. So grab yourself a piece of scrap from the project, give it a really good sand, and you'll finish up with a pile of sawdust just like that, which we'll then mix with some wood glue to make a paste. Now just remember, it doesn't matter if you use a filler bought from a shop or you've made your own, it's still going to stand out. For example, the one we're making today, even though we're using the sawdust from the project that we're making, because we're mixing it with glue, it's going to be a little darker than the wood. So let's give this a test. As you can see, I've got a long scratch down here, I've got a few little holes and a long scratch at this end, which you probably can't see. But anyway, let's just give this a bit of a mix. Got some wood glue, in that goes, and we'll make a nice little paste. So grab your paint scraper or your screwdriver, whatever you got, just mix that up. And there we have ourselves a nice little ball of putty. So just bring that across to here, work that in. If it's a bit proud, don't worry about that because we can sand that back. Okay, fill that crack in, or that scratch. Just get that putty right into it. And we'll leave that dry, then we'll come back and sand it. And here's how that repair finished up. This one was the homemade filler, and this one was a store-bought filler. Now these were both fairly major scratches, and like I said before, those fillers are going to stand out. But this one was cheaper than that one. Now hands down, one of the best power tools you can have in your tool arsenal as a beginner woodworker is a trim router. It's small, versatile, and so easy to use. But one of the most common problems when using one as a beginner is router burn, which is where the wood gets scorched black from excessive heat being generated from the router bit itself. Now this is usually due to wood pitch, which is a combination of glues, resins and sawdust that have built up on the edge of the router bit. Now the black router burn can be sanded off, but it can be quite painful, especially if the profile is quite intricate. To fix the problem, the first thing we need to do if your router bit has a bearing is take that off. Then, using a combination of soapy water along with something not too aggressive like an abrasive scrub pad or a fine wire brush, give that a good old scrub and that bit should come up clean, shiny and cutting like a brand spanker without any router burn. Now check that out, that's a beautiful finish without any router burn. Now just one more quick thing regarding router burn, and that is if you're moving your router too slowly or at any point you become stationary, you will burn the wood. So do yourself a favour and move at a nice steady pace and you'll be as good as gold. How annoying is it when you drill through a piece of wood and you finish up with all that ugly tear out and splintering on either side of the hole? It can totally destroy the look of the project that you devoted so much time to. Try these couple of tips on your next project and see how you go. Make sure that the piece you are drilling is sitting on top of a scrap piece of wood. That way it'll help prevent tear out or splintering on the underside of the hole as the drill bit bursts its way through. Next up, grab yourself a couple of clamps and secure that piece down, and that will create a really tight bond between those two boards, which should help minimise splintering. Next, grab yourself some painter's tape and place that over the hole that you're about to drill, and the adhesive on the back of that tape should help hold the wood together as the drill penetrates the surface. Mark your hole with a pencil and then punch a little hole with a nail or an awl, just like that, and this will help position your drill bit for a more accurate hole. Now, just for the record, this is pine, which is a softwood, and that is really prone to burring. So you still will have a bit around the top of the hole, but where the two boards are sandwiched, the splintering should be minimal. Now, don't force it and let the drill do the work. Okay, let's take this off. And that isn't too bad. Like I said, there's a bit of burring there, which we can probably sand out. But if we turn it over, now that is as clean as a whistle. Beautiful. One necessary evil of any woodworking job, and that is at some point you're going to need to sand that project down, and that often involves the use of an orbital sander. Now, the wonderful thing about power tools is that they allow you to screw things up so much quicker than doing it by hand, and using an orbital sander is no exception. One major issue I find with most beginners is that there is a temptation to apply too much pressure to the machine, which just produces an uneven surface. The weight of the sander is all the pressure that you need, and just use your hand to guide the tool and not to push down on it. Your sandpaper will last longer and you'll be less likely to get deep gouges. To help you achieve a more consistent finish, with your shop pencil, lightly scribble over all that surface. This will ensure that you spend equal time on all of the areas. Then reapply the pencil marks after each grit until you're done. Beautiful. Now, this is a classic that virtually all woodworkers make, and that is, they point out their mistakes. Don't do it. What normally happens is somebody comes over to your house to check out your brand new coffee table that you've just built, and they go, "Oh, that's awesome." And you go, "Yeah, it's pretty good, but I took a chunk out here and there's a gap on that leg over there, so, I could do better." Look, just the fact that you've actually built something is awesome. Just be proud of it. Nobody's even going to notice unless you point it out. Great tip, knackers! Now, if you want to see more beginner type videos, just like this one, make sure you click on my Power Tools for Beginners playlist, which will be popping up over there very shortly. Now, if you found some value in this video, please consider a small donation to my Buy Me a Coffee/beer fund, which helps keep the wheels turning over here at DIY for Knuckleheads. And I'll leave a link to that down below so you can check that out. Alrighty, after all that, I'm off for a cup of tea. So till next time, be good, be safe, and I'm out of here. Cheers.